Good morning, everybody. Here we are again, right back in the studio here in North Palm Beach, Florida. You heard the recorded introduction, and I'll just add a little bit to it. We're in a very interesting time. You regular listeners have heard me say this before, but every day things get more interesting for the automotive business, the retail and the wholesale, manufacturing, new cars, used cars, microchip shortages. It's becoming, well, I've been in the business a long time. I started as a dealer in 1968, if you can believe that. And I did see some crazy times. I mean, we saw some crazy times back in those almost 60 years that I've been around doing this. I have never seen anything like this, and that's saying a lot. This COVID pandemic, the war in the Ukraine, the economic situation, the parts shortage, they call it the supply chain shortage, the supply and demand situation with new and used cars. It is absolutely crazy out there, and it changes every day, and it changes differently than we expected. I'm guilty of forecasting that for the past 2.5 years that in about a year things will be back to normal. Well, it's been almost 3 years and they're not back to normal. I don't know when or if they're going to get back to normal. This car business, whether you're buying, selling, maintaining, or repairing your car, is just becoming more and more of an adventure for you and the dealers, the sellers, and the buyers. So it's interesting to me. If it's interesting to me, I hope it's interesting to you. Our role here this morning is to help you navigate this very, very difficult time to buy a car. Add to all of this Hurricane Ian, which again threw a real monkey wrench into the used car market and the new car market, mainly into Southwest Florida. We broadcast from Southeast Florida and North Palm Beach. Ian touched other areas too, with Georgia and North Carolina, but mainly Southwest Florida. A huge number of homes damaged, lives lost, and as far as this show is concerned, a lot of used cars out there that you really, really got to be careful about. Rick, you got a point?
There's actually a new stories coming out from that area with electric cars having been flooded, and now the water's draining away from them, catching fire from it.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to get to you, if you don't have to buy a car today, used or new, don't buy it. Every week, month that you wait, things are going to, if they don't get better, at least they'll be clearer. If prices stabilize, then you'll probably still pay a higher price, but you can at least know that if you wait, it's not going to go any lower. With used cars, I can't advise you enough to be careful. There's only one way that you can truly be sure you're getting a safe used car, and that's to have a good, trustworthy technician look at the car. You'll have to put it up on the lift. You'll have to go through the car carefully, because water damage is about the worst thing you can have to happen to a car. It affects the electronics, the computerized products, the most expensive parts of your car. It's not so much the transmission, the engine, which used to be the big parts of expense in a car. It's talking about the computerization of your car, the navigation system, the computer modules that do all the fancy stuff, the safety stuff, the cameras, the sensors, the radars, the lasers. I mean, what you're driving now is a very high-tech piece of equipment, and you put that high-tech piece of equipment underwater for just a minute or two, and you have totaled the car. Now, they could take that totaled car and they can go over it with a fine-tooth comb, I mean the experts, and make it look like it's never been in a flood. They'll probably make it look better than it did before it was in the flood. In fact, that happens to be a red flag right there. When a smart technician looks at the car, they say, hey, this is a 4-year-old car. It shouldn't be this new, shiny, clean as it is. So you need an expert to check any used car or proposed new car, late model, whatever it is, before you buy it. That's my that's my urgent warning to you today, because car market is booming, especially in South Florida and other areas that were touched by the hurricane. The hurricane caused people to have a car. If you have to have a car, you're going to buy a car, and you're going to buy it in a hurry, and you're going to be taken advantage of unless you're super careful. So even if it doesn't affect you and you have friends or relations that are in other areas that were affected by the storm, remind them, spread the word, let people know that they can listen to this radio show or go to my blog, earloncars.com. Simple to remember, earloncars.com. And you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/EarlOnCars. And we're also on Twitter. We're on youtube.com/EarlOnCars. There are a lot of ways that you can contact us. In the studio with me, we have Rick Kearney, and he's the one that has educated me a lot on flood cars. He's the one just mentioned a moment ago about the electrical cars on the southwest coast of Florida that were damaged, some of them actually catching fire. But there's not that many electrical cars out there. Most of them are just old-fashioned gasoline-powered cars, and they're the ones you're probably going to be buying, and they're the ones you have to be especially careful of. So you can call in and ask Rick. He monitors the YouTube channel, youtube.com/EarlOnCars. You can talk directly to Rick and say, hey, listen, I'm getting ready to buy a car, or maybe I just bought a car, or my car was in a flood. He can answer a lot of questions for you about what happens to a car when the water rises to about the level of the dash, even for a few minutes, and why you might not know about that damage till a month after you bought it, maybe a year after you bought it. You won't know until something shorts out or something happens, and then it's too late. So be careful. Just be sure you don't buy that car if it's been exposed to water. My son Stu Stewart is in the studio, and he is our cyber underground cover guy that sends our undercover agent out to mystery shop car dealerships all over. And our mystery shopper this time shopped a car dealership in the flood-affected area, the Hurricane Ian affected area, to see what was going over there. She actually went to Bradenton, which is right in the heart of the storm-affected area, hurricane-affected area, I should say. So Stu will talk about that mystery shopping report. And to my left is Nancy Stewart, my co-host, co-founder of Earl on Cars back about 20 years ago. And she is a strong advocate for you female listeners out there. We have a very special female caller out there, hopefully listening now, and she'll be calling on later in the show. We kind of took her from the very beginning of her issue with a car dealership, a Cadillac dealership, as it were, and her efforts to try to getting justice, to getting a wrong done her made right. And she took some advice and listened to us, and she'll be calling in later in the show. I think she started out as a first-time caller, first-time female callers. Nancy Stewart has a very special offer, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Nancy, and she'll tell you all about that.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. For the ladies, $50. $50 for the first two new lady callers. Give us a call at 877-960-9960. And for others, you can text us at 772-497-6530. We have a whole lot to get to this morning, and something that really is near and dear to my heart, that's Lorg. And if you're not familiar with her name, she was dealing with Ed Moore's Cadillac, and she went all the way to the attorney's office, and she got satisfaction. We talked to her yesterday and last night, and we were ecstatic at the outcome and the conclusion, and it's finally over, and she's a living example not to give up. Give us a call, 877-960-9960, and don't forget to go to Earl on Cars, where you can find that column that Earl mentioned, how to avoid buying a flood car after the Hurricane of Ian disaster. Now back to the recovering car dealer.
Now, I forgot to give out YourAnonymousFeedback.com, and I just looked at my iPhone, noticed I didn't see any recent YourAnonymousFeedback.coms. That's our favorite channel. People love it. It's a URL, a web address that is set up by a company that does a lot of blue chip companies. A lot of companies like to use this form of feedback from their employees and customers, just like the police and there's a lot of hotlines out there that are anonymous for a good reason, and people feel more comfortable with their privacy when they can communicate. They don't want to be harassed. Too many people you call, they keep a record of your call, your number, and they harass you after that. If you want total privacy, anonymity, just go to youranonymousfeedback.com. YOURANONYMOUS feedback. FEEDBACK, just like it sounds, youranonymousfeedback.com. And Stu monitors that along with our text line, which again is for people that don't want to call me live radio. I mean, I don't blame you. I think back to when we first started the show, I was nervous. It's one thing to talk to somebody normally, but when you're talking to 10,000, 20 or 30,000 people all over the world, and you start thinking about it, you can choke. I don't choke, and Nancy doesn't choke because we've been doing this for a long time. But if you feel nervous about it, use our text number, and that is just 772-497-6530. That's text number is area code 772-497-6530. And the text we'll accrue them, and Steve monitors those along with the anonymous feedback. And if we don't get to your text right away, we will, and by the end of the show, most likely. And by the way, I know you can't listen to the whole show. We're a 2-hour show. We're on from 8 a.m. Eastern Time to 10 a.m. Eastern, 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. We archive all the shows, and that's on EarlOnCars.com. So if you can't catch the show, just go to EarlOnCars.com archives, and we have every show there. We have podcasts available. You can go to YouTube and see segments of the show. So this show, if you can catch it, and we're all over we're going to California. In fact, we're going to Bali. We have a listener in Bali. We're Canada. We're all over, every time zone. So go to the archives, listen to our podcast, and you can check our podcast out on any of the podcast venues, Earl on Cars, and that's the name of the podcast there. I'm going to turn the mic over to my son, Stu, who I say he's in charge of Agent Lightning, who we have been dispatching now for over a year, and she's our first permanent, I guess you would call her, female shopper. She's amazing, and she's been all over. She's been in other states. She's out of this area a lot more frequently than our previous mystery shoppers did. So he'll tell you about that and see if we have any text or anonymous feedback.
Well, it's a lot of times we make it look like we planned these things, so we can't take credit. Agent Lightning was going to the West Coast for personal reasons anyway, and when she was over there, she decided to knock out a couple of mystery shops. So it did sound, the timing was good, and I believe she was going out to check on relatives and things like that at the affected area. So I know Bradenton. I used to date someone who lived in Bradenton back in college. And it's a really nice beach town, and it's right there near Sarasota, and about maybe 45 minutes south of Tampa, Clearwater, and it was like right in the path.
And it's a typical small town. It's unusual to have a small town in Southwest Florida, but it is a small town.
Oh yeah, it's just kind of like a little, it's a little downtown area, and it's a cute little place. But it got hit hard, not nearly as bad as Cape Coral and Fort Myers Beach and all that area, but they were right there in the path of it, and so their market is going to be flooded with flood cars, and so they have a lot of things to worry about. These cars are going to wind up at dealerships around there. Also, those cars are going to wind up in dealerships around here, and also there's cars that aren't going to be. Some of these cars, like I'll mention the mystery shopping report, will be totaled up by insurance companies. The titles will be branded, and there'll be a mechanism by which consumers can identify these cars. But there will be thousands and thousands of cars that won't have that branded title, and you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold up Stu, while you're talking. I'll hold this up, and maybe Jonathan can put this on the people who are streaming us. And and there's a huge demand, as you can imagine, in Florida. for cars, and of course was also a huge amount of flood cars. So
Yeah.
this is the front page of our Palm Beach Post, I think for Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, most of the like the pictures you've seen of the storm surge, and that clearly that was the most destruction came from the storm surge. Most of the deaths came. I think we're 100 and something deaths right now.
Yeah.
A lot of them I read were older people that drowned, and that's just awful. But Central Florida, the path of the storm went over Central Florida, huge metro areas of Orlando, millions of people. I'm not exaggerating, millions of people between Tampa and Orlando and Jacksonville, and millions of cars. So, yeah, like I said, it was Agent Lightning was going over there anyway, but we got some good information for y'all coming up with the Mystery Shopping Report. And it's a two-part series. She did too. So next week we'll get to hear the other the dealership. This week it's Firkins Chrysler Dodge Jeep in Bradenton, Florida. We do have some texts if we can.
Yeah.
Okay. No phone callers coming in. All right.
Just remember, we prioritize phone calls, folks. So if you call and we're talking, we
I'll
stop
shut up.
talking,
I'll just shut
and
up.
we just jump right on the phone calls because you can only get 5 calls in, and we love the personal touch of phone calls. So Stu will
Absolutely.
get into our text now.
I'm going to interrupt you for a moment, Stu, and I'd like we're talking so much about the hurricane. Let's talk about Earl's book and the impact it can have on these people that have been affected by the hurricane. And if you don't know about the book, it's Confessions of a Recovering Car Dealer. Confessions of a Recovering Car Dealer.
Cue Rick.
And if you go to Amazon, you can order the book. And, all of the proceeds goes to Big Dog Ranch. And
That was really Rick. Scared me.
we got to feed that dog.
That's his hungry
I
bark.
thought it was
That
a
dog sounds
Rottweiler.
hungry. So anyway, thank you, Rick. I just want to remind all of you, Confessions of a Recovering Car Dealer. Go to Amazon. And like I said, 100% of the proceeds goes to Big Dog Ranch. And Big Dog Ranch, feed that dog.
Give him a granola bar.
And Lori Simmons is out there, and her staff, and they're rescuing dogs and helping people. And what a great job she has done during this disastrous time. So take advantage of Confessions of a Recovering Car Dealer. You can't go wrong. You can put that book on the shelf. You can use it today, tomorrow, or next year. It will have an impact on you purchasing a vehicle. 877-960-9960. Or you can text us at 772-497-6530. And as Earl said, and don't forget, youranonymousfeedback.com. Now back to Stu.
Thanks, Nancy. It's a good segue talking about Big Dog Ranch Rescue. Before I get to Anne Marie's text, we did get a text from Joe, who's out of town. He's a longtime listener, and his son has a dog that he has to give up, and he doesn't want it to be put down. And they're willing to drive down. What state are they in? They're going to drive down to Big Dog Ranch Rescue. I forwarded his message to you and Robin. It's pretty heartbreaking and but also inspiring. So I sent that to you in email, and we'll get back to him. And absolutely, if you can drive the dog down, I don't think there's going to be any problem with Big Dog Ranch Rescue taking this in.
Now, one thing with Big Dog is we're on that subject, and you can foster a dog, even if you can't adopt one. And the problem with Big Dog Ranch, it's the largest no-kill shelter anywhere in Florida, I think probably of the whole country. No dogs are euthanized at Big Dog Ranch. We have 400 or 500 dogs out there at all times, and the facility is expanding thanks to a lot of donations and a lot of personal help from Lori Simmons. The problem is we still are bulging at the seams because other dog rescue places don't keep their dogs. They do euthanize them, and because we don't, they send us the dogs. So we're getting dogs from all over the country, and we are keeping them out there in our facility. So we don't have enough room all the time, and we have to ask people to foster a dog. So if you can just take a dog for a week or 2 or 2 or 3 weeks maybe, you can free up some space, and we're expanding out there as we speak. So Big Dog Ranch Rescue, that's www.bdrr.org. bigdogbdrr.org, and go there, and you can offer to foster a dog, and that'll make some space for someone that can permanently adopt one. Okay, back to you, Stu.
All right. Thanks, Dad. We have a call.
Excuse me, Stu. We do. We have Laura who's on the line, and she's been holding for a couple of minutes. And I talked about her as we opened the show this morning. And she's the young lady who went after Ed Morris Cadillac. Why? She was taken advantage of. And guess what? She was driven, she was focused, and she is an educated consumer. And she never, ever lost sight of the prize. And the prize arrived yesterday. And that is satisfaction. Uppercase, exclamation point, satisfaction. We'll bring her on right now. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning, Nancy. Good morning, Earl.
Good morning. I'll just, Nancy, somewhat summarize things, but to summarize your journey, you started out very distraught and upset because the car dealership that you dealt with at Morse Cadillac was not hearing your complaints and certainly not acceding to them in any way, and you just didn't give up. And you epitomized the type of consumer that I think is becoming more and more prevalent in America today. People are not they're not going to stand for it anymore. They're not going to sit quiet, and you continue to persist, and you listen to the show, and you complimented us on helping it to some extent, but it was really your persistence to continue on. Now, this wasn't a huge claim. It was a valid claim, and it was an obvious claim, and we were very upset because the authorities were not listening. But you persisted, and you've signed an agreement. You've settled this with Ed Morris Cadillac. Of course, in the agreement you've signed, you can't disparage them or any way criticize or anything like that. But I can, and I know what's happened, and I can talk about it. But I'll turn the mic back over to you, or the phone back over to you, Laura. Again, just kind of give us in your words what happened.
Okay. Your advice was great. You told me contact the Attorney General's office, which I did online. I did that back in May, and I didn't hear anything until about a month ago. They sent me like a holding email, which I then responded to online and said, look, you need to do something. These people are not going to answer you. I said, it's a small claim. It's a valid claim. They didn't honor a contract. And the next thing I know, 2 weeks after I sent that email, I get a call from the service department in Ed Morris saying, you have to come in, we've got a check for you. That's about what happened. Yeah. But my big beef with them still, and it still sticks in my craw, is that the general manager didn't even have the guts to come and apologize.
Yeah, I read that. That's amazing. Hard to believe.
That sticks in my craw. I mean, if I were running a business, I would want to come and make sure, apologize or make sure things are okay. And it landed on the desk of a new service manager there, and he was very nice and he listened, but he had no background. He had no backstory. But, I did get my satisfaction, and thank you very much. You did advise me. All I can say to people out there, when you deal with something like the Attorney General's office, keep a paper trail. You have to be pretty good at online. And I'm an older person, and, to attach emails and scan things in, it's not as easy for me as it is for a younger person to do.
Well,
but
Laura,
I did it.
Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but you wrote the Attorney General, you filled out the official form, you issued a complaint, and you didn't hear back from the Attorney General, but you think that the Attorney General contacted Ed Morris Cadillac directly. Is that true?
Yes. From what I understand, they wrote a letter to the sales department. Now, whether they wrote it physically or it came through on an email, that I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I did have to sign a disclaimer, which then Ed Morris has to send back to the Attorney General's office once it's notarized, which it was notarized.
Yeah, that's
and that happened. That happened yesterday. So, as you said, things got squared away. I persevered. But I can see where if it were a bigger amount of money, it might have taken more back and forth. I was kind of shocked that because I put down an amount that I was out of pocket, you know, and it came from a Cadillac accessories catalog I had kept, you know, all those years ago. So,
Yeah.
you know, unfortunately, I keep things.
Well, this
That's good or bad. But
this should be a lesson to all the car dealers out there. The amount of money. Do you mind if I mention it?
You can mention it.
$350 is what they gave you that they owed you, and probably then some for aggravation. But what they paid their attorney, I'm reading the release that you faxed me, and the release in itself, and the attorney I guarantee you they paid this attorney $5,000 because they were stonewalling you on a $350 claim. So. The lesson be learned to all you car dealers out there, it's not only the right thing to do, the moral, ethical thing to do
It's the
to be
cheap
right,
thing.
but it's also the cheapest thing. Because if you find someone like Lord that isn't going to be scared away, I love this release. I underlined a few lines here. Lorig had to promise that she will never say anything bad about Ed Moore's Cadillac again. And here's the legal term. It says, reason by any matter cause a thing whatsoever from the beginning of the world to the days of the present. So, did you hear that, Lorig? From the beginning of the world. That's legal. Legally.
That's like taken straight from English common law.
Yeah.
I guarantee.
And the fact that they paid you is not an admission of any liability nor a guarantee that any additional service will be likewise provided. And then you are prohibited and barred from bringing forth any additional claims against Ed Moore's Cadillac as a condition of this agreement. I mean, it's laughable. And this is for $350. They paid the lawyer 100 times that much, and they could have just done the right thing.
We settle things in which we were right just because it wasn't worth it to get a lawyer.
Right from the get-go, they could. But you know, afterwards I thought about it. You know, I was charged labor, and I should have put the labor charges in for a couple of hours of doing the work. And you know, it doesn't matter. It's the principle. And I told the service manager, I said, it's the principle. If you go after the principle and you get them, you feel satisfied. It wasn't a monetary amount that mattered to me. It was the fact that they did wrong. And
Well,
you cited that too.
We're going to have to come up with a plaque. I'm going to give you a heroine plaque. We'll have the heroine plaque, because anyone that is smart enough and tenacious enough to pursue something like you have, and we have some other people out there, very few, but you should get a medal for that, Lorig. And thanks so much for being part of our show.
Yes, thank you. Hey, Earl, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You know, with the Hurricane Ian and the electric vehicles, that, you know, by 2035 we're supposed to have electric vehicles only, and they're going to be charging stations. Now, Florida, we're the lightning capital of the world. We get hit by hurricanes. What's going to happen if all those charging stations and all those cars and emergency vehicles, police vehicles can't run because of the charging stations down?
Well,
are they going to be run on generators? What's going to happen?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's kind of the same thing with gas stations. You know, when we had a power shortage, they can't pump the gas. I mean, it's not electricity, but the gas pumps don't work when the electricity goes out. So most of the service stations now have the generators, and I'm sure you're right. The generator will be the answer, the backup generator. They'll probably be, by 2035, they'll probably be solar powered battery generators, and there's a lot of
that would have been now.
I'm like you, Lorig. I can't envision 100% electric vehicles, but it's going to happen. We see it.
Currently, Florida is underway, like burying power lines. They've been doing this for 15 years now. It's slow. I mean, thousands of miles. They mentioned this during the lead up to the storm. In some communities, like my neighborhood, everything's buried, and we very rarely get a power outage.
Yeah.
It's affected us also, that upgrade.
And you guys did that in your neighborhood as well,
Yeah. So that's it's fun to watch, isn't it, Lorig? I mean, it's just incredible what's happening with electric vehicles, and It's fun to watch. I can't believe that my great grandson will not even see a combustion engine car. By the time he's old enough to drive, he'll have to buy an electric vehicle. So it'll be fun to watch all that.
Isn't that amazing? Just amazing. Well, I look forward to hearing you carry on that discussion over the next few months and years.
Well, we're gonna get your medal or plaque or something to you because we're gonna have anyone like you that can weather the system and go against the attorneys and the rest of it. Yeah, the dealers.
She's the dealer slayer.
Yeah, there you go. A dealer slayer. I like that.
Lorig, it's Nancy.
Thank you very much for your help again.
And I just want to thank you. It's been quite a journey, and it's been quite a journey for you. And hey, you weathered the storm. And, the strong shall overcome and survive. And you did just that. And what an example for everyone. And I, emphasize the ladies. And somehow we think we won't be heard. And guess what? You were heard. And I want to thank you so much. We were very fortunate to, meet. And I hope you...
Nancy, I just wish there were more women like you. You go into these dealerships, very few women. They're all salesmen. On the service desk, they're all men. Very few women like you. And I'm just very grateful that I did meet you. And we've become friends over the YouTube. But it's just very sad. It's a sad predicament because there are good women out there that should be in these dealerships.
Exactly. And, you're absolutely right. In the automotive news that I read, oftentimes I take a look at the back sheet, the back page, and take a look at the graduates from that industry. And every once in a while, there might be maybe 2 or 3. Well, just recently, Earl pointed out to me, because I hadn't taken a look at my edition, that there was, I think, Earl, what was it, 14? That they showed all these pictures, and that was encouraging because things are changing because of women like you, women like me, and as I always say, your voice must be heard. It must be heard. So I want to thank you. And
thanks again to all of you, and good luck with the show, and may you have continued success out there, and you have lots of listeners.
I want to ask you to repeat what you said in your email. It was in French, and it was plus que changer.
Plus ça change, which means life goes on, nothing changes.
Nothing changes,
It's like a satirical type of comment that you're trying to change things, but in the end nothing changes. And that's how I felt after I walked out of that dealership. I thought, okay, I'm gone, they don't care. and there'll be another stooge after me, right? That's how I felt.
It would have been somewhat satisfying if you could look back and say, I'm just a memory. But I don't even think that would apply. Again, thank you so much for the call, and I hope to talk to you again.
All right.
And thanks for sacrificing your morning for us.
I'm a night bird, but no, I just took you off.
I really pressured you. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Yeah.
You're welcome. 877-960-9960, or you can text us at 772-497-6530. And don't forget your anonymous feedback.com. We're going to stick with the phones, and we're going to talk to Marty from West Palm Beach. Good morning, Marty.
Good morning. She should have bought a Toyota. That was her problem. Okay. Is Rick there?
He is indeed. He's ready.
All right. I got a question for him. Maybe in the last month, I'm going to say 2 or 3 times, and I drive my 2020 Camry probably 3 or 4 times a day somewhere. The electronic parking brake did not release, so the emergency brake stayed on. And I called once, and you told me make sure my door is shut. So far I haven't fallen out of the car, and I know it's not the door. However, I'm coming in Wednesday for oil change and tire rotation, but I really don't want to have them monkey around with the brakes. What do you think the possibility is that the electronic parking brake just doesn't release? I mean, when I see that it happens, I just push down on the lever, and then, of course, it's off.
I would recommend have us run a health check on it with the TechStream scan tool, just to make sure that you haven't got something weird going on there.
Okay, will they do that when I do the oil change and that?
Only if you request it. If you tell them you're having an issue with the parking brake, tell them that we recommended run a health check, then obviously that we'd be able to take care of that. But only if you don't mention the issue, then it does normally get done. No.
Okay, but that doesn't mean they're going to start taking anything apart.
Not unless you authorize it.
All right. Yeah.
If it's under warranty.
To me.
And to all my customers out there, please don't call on the radio to get your service done at Earl Stewart Toyota. So, yeah. Call us at 844-3461, not the radio show.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you, if it's just, let's say, it can't be just like a fuse or something?
No. Fuses. If a fuse blows, whatever system it's powering shuts down, and pretty much anything. If the fuse blows, you got to understand. A fuse is simply a piece of wire that, if it gets too much current drawn across it, it heats up and it literally burns apart. And once it's done, it's like a light bulb. Once a light bulb burns out, it's done. So when a fuse blows, that's it. What you've got going is probably some issue with the computer system, and we'd need to go in and diagnose that to find out for sure what's going on.
All right. All right. Thanks, Rick. I think I'm going to leave it alone.
Okay,
All
Marty.
right.
Thanks for
All
calling.
right. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marty.
Bye.
Marty sounds so disappointed on the brake issue.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember the French phrase that we just heard, but I don't know. We don't speak French.
Yeah.
Are we good on the phones?
We do. We are still on the phones, and we are going to talk to Myra. And this is for you, because
thank
I
you.
know that you'll be able to say that eloquently.
All right, I'll work on
We
it.
are going to go to Myra, and she's calling us from West Palm Beach. Good morning, Myra.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
We're well, thank you. Have you called before?
No, this is my first time.
Oh, that is fabulous. I have $50 for you. On
That's even better.
Yeah, Saturday mornings we offer $50 for the first two new lady callers, and you are the first new lady caller. So if you'll share your information with Jeremy in the control room, he'll get it over to me, and I'll send you out a check.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Great. What can we do for you this morning?
Well, I have a 2006 Toyota Highlander hybrid, and I love it. I've had it since it was brand new, and it has 225,000 miles on it. And I had planned on buying a new one about 2.5 years ago, but then the pandemic hit, and I worked from home, and now I'm really ready for a new one, but I keep waiting for the chips to be released. And I don't know, or I'd like to buy one that's maybe a year old, but that still is under warranty. But now I'm getting a little leery because am traveling again, and I'm concerned with that many miles and that old that I maybe need to break down and buy a new one.
Well, Mara, let me jump in here quickly. One of the things that I advise people, if they've taken care of their car, and you sound like a woman that would take care of her car, even though it's a 2006 with 225,000 miles, by today's standards, if you've done all your factory recommended maintenance and you don't experience any issues with the car, it's good probably for at least another 75,000 or more miles. Today's a bad time to buy a car. It's just new or used. I advise people only if they have to. I don't think you have to, unless there's an issue with your car that I don't know about. But 2 questions. Have you had all the factory recommended maintenance done? And do you know of any issues with the car? Is there anything that concerns you with the performance right now?
I have had all the factory maintenance done. The only thing that concerns me, and I'm going to take it in soon, is my brakes seem to be pulling a little.
Mm-hmm. Well,
They brake, but they're different than what I'm used to.
Mm-hmm. Well, you certainly should have that checked out, because it could be just an alignment issue that could cause uneven wear on your tires. And I'm an expert at uneven wear on tires, because I'm always changing the tire. I'm knocking things out of line. But that's a maintenance item, an issue you have to take a look. But as far as buying a car, if you're going to buy a 2022 or 23 Highlander hybrid, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And even a late model used, a 2020-21, would cost you a lot of money today. You got a perfectly good car and SUV, and have someone check out that pull. Rick has probably a suggestion on that.
Yeah, you said it's pulling a little bit when you step on the brakes.
Yes, and it's only when I first start the car in the morning and I'm pulling out of the driveway and step on the brake, it kind of grabs a little.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I get going, it's fine, but it had never done that before.
Okay, you might have a little bit of corrosion on the rotors, or possibility is the slide pins for the calipers are starting to stick a little bit. So when you take it in for your service, just mention that. Ask them if they can check the calipers and make sure that they're sliding freely like they should.
Rick, let me ask you a
and that
question
should
on
take
that.
care of that issue for you.
Why does it happen only early when we first starts up in the morning, and why wouldn't that phenomenon occur, at any time she stepped on the brakes?
Well, one of the main reasons for that is sitting overnight, we get a light surface of rust forms on the brake rotors. It's totally normal. Mm-hmm. But sometimes when it's a little heavier in one spot than the other, instead of the pad simply sliding along and cleaning that rust off, it'll actually catch a little bit, and that wheel will grab, and that causes the car to pull to that side.
But then it stops grabbing. So why?
Because it breaks that little bit of rust off of there.
And the rust forms again the next morning?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Never realized rust could happen that way.
South Florida issues, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's helpful. I appreciate that, and I will ask them about that when I bring it in this week.
Very good. Well, thanks so much, Mara.
Sounds like a
Appreciate
good
the call.
idea. Mara, I'll leave you with this. If you go to Earl on Cars, you can read a column that Earl wrote about holding on to your old car for all the reasons that Earl just mentioned. There's so many variables right now, and it's just not a good time. So go to Earl on Cars, and you can read the column and so many others that will help you. Help you feel more comfortable about holding on to that 2006.
Well, I appreciate that, and I do feel better. I think I just had a magical number in my mind, 225,000, that maybe that was the end of a car. But I feel better now that you said I can hang on to it for another 75,000 miles, possibly.
You're good to go. Hang on the line, because Jeremy will get your contact information, and then she'll send you that
Thank
check.
you so much.
Spread the word, Mara.
Appreciate that.
Tell all your lady
do,
friends.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Our number is 877-960-9960. And don't forget your anonymous feedback.com. You can also text us at 772-497-6530. And we're going to stay on the phones, and we're going to talk to Doug. And he's calling us from Boca. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, you guys. How are you? Thank you for having this program. It's very informative, and, of course, the Sunrise Club, I love that, too. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
So, Ella says hello. And,
meow. Right back at Ella.
Good
Don't
morning.
bark, Rick. No barking now.
So
Hey, does Ella react to that Rick's barks?
I have a quick question about
Terrible, terrible.
That was a little meow.
She actually looked at the phone when you did that.
What was that?
There you go, Rick.
What creature was
A
that?
cat impersonator.
Right.
So I have a question. I had an opportunity to order a Toyota Corolla GR circuit, and the thing is, we don't know when they'll be out, but
Right.
I won like a little lotto thing and put a little deposit down, and they told me basically that there's no way I'm going to get the sticker price. But my friend knows the owner of a dealership in Hollywood, and he grew up with him, and basically I could get the car for sticker price. But then
That's
I
great.
just heard you say, why don't you just stick with the car that you have, which is the Honda Civic Si that I've had since 2020.
Because the Corolla GR is so cool. That's why.
Yeah, I know. So because of the new laws that Honda did with their leasing, I can't sell my car because Honda forbids me to do that unless I buy it and then sell it. So I don't think Toyota does that.
No.
And I'm kind of upset about it because now if I turn in my Honda,
Well,
which is dumb, very dumb, because it's worth
worth a lot.
more.
Yeah. Well, that's
Then
typically the that's the what you go. I mean, you would buy it, exercise your purchase option, and then sell it. That's how it would be done, even through Toyota.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
At the end of the lease, you're either going to indicate you're going to return it, or you're going to buy it. If you return it, then you just walk away, and that'd be crazy now because, like you said, your Civic Si is worth a lot right now, more than your payoff. But that's kind of like the step. So you can't just sell it directly because right now it's owned by the lessor, by Honda American Credit, and you're the lessee, and then according to the contract, when that ends, that goes back to the dealer unless you exercise your right to purchase. And I'm pretty sure that's the same on all manufacturers' leases.
Yeah, Doug, it's particularly where you live here in South Florida. There's a big class action suit in process. WPLG Channel 10 has done a great job at raising awareness of what the car dealers were doing prior to this time. They were requiring high fees, thousands of dollars sometimes, on top of the purchase option price you had in your lease contract. Right now, I'm pretty sure if a dealer isn't scared to death to do that because they would really end up in this class action suit, I think if a lot of dealers are starting to behave themselves. So you'll be able to buy that Honda at the actual price listed in your lease contract, purchase option price, which will be thousands of dollars less than the market value. So you can flip it, you can buy it, and then resell it and make a couple thousand, maybe more, and the dealer can't interfere with that process. If he does, just let us know, and we'll let the Jeff Weinseer at Channel 10, WPLG, know, and they'll be interviewing that dealer the next day.
The only thing you have to pay on for your purchase, if you purchase your lease, is just the sales tax, and then you're going to have to register it again because it's going to transfer the tax because it's registered under the lessor.
Well, the buyout price is $16,100, not including tax, and the dealer said that they were going to charge me $1,000 fee. So what I did is I went to credit union. I said, hey, I'm going to call Honda. I'm going to have them give you whatever, and so therefore I would save the $1,000 that they.
When did they do that? When did they tell you they wanted the $1,000 fee?
Just a week ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where was this?
Doug, I'm going to give you.
I'm going to tell you the name. I'm never going to go there again. This is it. Delray Honda. And
they're still doing that.
They were giving me, but no more.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean that happened. That was after all this came out.
Yeah, they live in a bubble. They must not know what's going on. If you want to talk to Jeff Weinseer, the investigative reporter for WPLG, I can give you his telephone number. He'd love to walk in there with a microphone and talk to the Honda dealer.
I would definitely do that because that I'm in that field, and I really appreciate you guys, but I don't know how I'm going to get both cars, because if I want, I'd have to be a dealership to be able to buy
Right.
2 cars.
Because you got to wait a long time for for the Corolla.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, they said January, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be maybe even February, but we'll see. But I'll let you know what happens with that. I need the number for Jeff Weinstein.
Okay, Weinseer. Yeah, let me give that to you.
He'll be happy to hear from you, Doug, for sure.
I'm gonna give it to you on the air because
Everybody else could call.
everybody else would like to have it too. And Weinseer, here he goes. This is his cell phone number, Jeff Weinseer, investigative reporter, WPLG Channel 10. And that number is area code 954-364-2823. I'll repeat that. Area code 954-364-2823. Again, Jeff Weinseer, Weinseir, investigative reporter, WPLG Channel 10. And he led the charge in South Florida for this class action suit. And car dealerships and car manufacturers' captive finance arms are settling this out of court right and left. So even Toyota was involved. Southeast Toyota Finance was involved. They settled it. Toyota dealers have settled it. Buick dealers, Chevrolet dealers. It's a bloodbath down there thanks to Jeff Weinseer.
Well, I'm going to call on everyone's behalf because this shouldn't be done.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how much I appreciate both of you and love both of you. And I hope you have a wonderful Saturday. And thank you for all your help.
Thank you, Doug.
Oh, you're welcome, Doug. We hope to hear from you again. 877-960-9960. Or you can text us at 772-497-6530. And as I said earlier, don't forget youranonymousfeedback.com. And whenever you go to Earl on Cars, there's so many columns that you can pull up, and one that's extremely appropriate. And just to put her face out there, it's an open letter to the Attorney General, Ashley Moody. And, she can certainly help you if she has the time, which she never has. But at any rate, Laura is a perfect example from this lawsuit with Ed Morse.
That's an interesting example of our Attorney General. If you listened earlier, or if you haven't listened earlier, a woman, a very, very smart, educated consumer-type woman called because she had been taken advantage of at Ed Morse Cadillac. And we advised her when she called to the show to file a complaint with the state attorney general, and she did. And that went to Ashley Moody. And you would think that when someone had clearly committed a violation, the attorney general would have made more of it. But apparently, the attorney general just talked to Ed Morse Cadillac and said, "You've done a wrong thing here, and you better give that money back." And he did, which is good. But the point is, they were trying to keep it under wraps. And Ed Morse had Lorig sign a non-disclosure agreement. The Attorney General acted secretly between Ed Morse. The Attorney General never contacted Lorig so that it would be conversation about it. So in this case here is a case of Ashley Moody, the Attorney General, protecting the car dealer and saying, this thing is going pretty far. I'm giving you some friendly advice. Settle this thing, $350, settle it, and get a non-disclosure agreement, and then tell me you've done this. It sounds to me like this is not government in the sunshine. This is government in the shadows, and that is a proof that our Attorney General is in the pocket of the car dealers and the car dealer associations, and this is a very bad thing. And Ashley Moody's running for re-election, and guess what? She'll get re-elected. No one's running against her. The woman that's running against her doesn't have any financing, any support. And I can't even remember her name, but she has one opponent, and of course Ashley Moody will get elected again. And that's the way politics is in Florida and a lot of other states.
Yeah, they really moved forward with the advertisement, the commercials for Ashley Moody just recently. As I said earlier, 877-960-9960. Give us a call, and we're going to stay on the phones, and we are going to go to Miami. Good morning.
Morning, how are you? It's Elaine from Miami.
Elaine, welcome. Have you called before?
I have not. My friend Regina.
Elaine, I have $50 for you this morning as a second new female caller. You win yourself $50, and after our conversation is finished, if you'll stay on the line and talk to Jeremy in the control room, he will get your information, and I will get that check out to you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. How are things in Miami? How can we help you?
So my friend Regina, she actually referred me to listen, and she actually ordered a car, and it's coming like in 2023. And she also told me it was a hybrid. I recently got a Highlander in 2020 pre-COVID, and I saw something on the news about like this whole hurricane disaster, and they said about electric cars as they're plugged in, before we lose power, if you plug them back, and I don't know if it was on Channel 10, however, I was looking online, I couldn't find the article, and it said if you plugged it back into the house, once you lost power in the house, it would give back power to the house. So that was a great question that I didn't know how to, I was like, Regina, did you hear about this? And she was like, no, I didn't. So she's like, you should ask that question on the air. So do you know about that?
Elaine, there are some cars that have that benefit. I think Tesla might have that. I'm not sure. This isn't a common thing in any electric car, but there are trucks, I believe, maybe Ford. Rick might have some specifics on this, but yes, there are electric vehicles, a few of them, that offer a generator ability in a situation of power shortage, so you can run a small amount of small power consumption items off the generator from your electric vehicle. But that isn't standard, and most electric vehicles don't have that. Rick, can you add to that?
Yeah, the only one I'm aware of that has that capability are the Ford Lightning trucks, the F-150 Lightning, that is just now coming onto the market. And they have to be specially equipped for it, and even then, it would only be a short time before you'd lose that power would run out. So you'd only have a small amount of it. But in an emergency situation, that can be a life changer. So yeah, that's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, on the actual, when they were doing that bit on the news, it didn't really specify, and it was like one of those quick. Make you want to watch through the commercial.
Yeah,
right.
So I didn't get to watch through the commercial. However, thanks for that information. And I also the opponent for Moody is Ayala, which I did follow. But yeah, we should definitely work on getting government that hides things away. So yes.
Ayala, I'm glad you're. Give us that name again. This is the opponent running against Ashley Moody. Is that correct?
Yes, it's Aramis Ayala.
And if you're looking for someone to vote that will be better than Ashley Moody, Mrs. Ayala, unknown as she is, would be a preferential choice. I don't even know Ayala's background or what she would do, but she couldn't be any worse than Ashley Moody. Any attention and concern anyone would have for the car buyers in Florida would be better than what Ashley Moody has. She has zero.
Perfect.
Thank you, Elaine.
So much.
Thank you so much for the call, and we hope to hear from you again. And good luck, and spread the word. We're here. $50 for the first two new lady callers.
It's my first time listening, and it's really interesting, actually.
Thank you.
Well, please call again and spread the word.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elaine.
877-960-9960, or you can text us at 772-497-6530. Your anonymous feedback.com is right there for you, so take advantage of it. We're going to stay with the phones, and we're going out to Palm City, and we're going to talk to John, who is a regular caller, and he fills us with so much information week in and week out. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Speaking of EV trucks, Pepsi-Cola is taking delivery on December 1st of 100 Tesla semi-trucks. They're going to be used at the Frito-Lay plant in California and also the beverage plant in Sacramento, and they were ordered in 2017. They are Tesla semi-trucks, EV. So here and now, that's a statement from Pepsi, the second largest beverage company in the world. Then I have a question for Rick. On the EV Teslas, particularly, when they're in a flood, naturally, as a total flood, they're no good because of the electronics. But can the batteries be reused again on a Tesla or a EV car? Can you use the batteries again, or are they scrap also?
I would say it's highly unadvisable due to the fact that the situation we've seen here with Ian, the water that came up was dirty salt water, contaminated salt water. Once that has found its way in, even though those units are sealed, that water is going to seep into everywhere. And even after the water evaporates and dries out, the residue that is left, the salt and dirt residue, is going to contaminate everything, cause massive corrosion, and that's actually been a situation they're having over there where electric vehicles are literally catching on fire days after they've dried out because of that corrosion causing short circuits and literally catching those batteries on fire, and suddenly the car is bursting into flames.
Of course, those batteries are on the very bottom of the car,
Yep.
so they're gonna be exposed to the water before any other part of the car. So that's a good point. Apparently, a lot of water and floods are maybe even worse for an electrical car than they are in internal combustion.
Absolutely.
Well, you've answered the question. One fast question to Earl on nostalgia. Earl, were you ever offered a Saab dealership? Saab was taken over by General Motors, and I believe they closed it down in 2011.
No,
Saab was, in my opinion, a good car at one time.
Yeah, no, I wasn't offered. Had I been offered, I would have declined, because you're right. The Saab was just a real clunker, and do they still sell Saabs?
No.
Yeah.
Born from jets.
I think they're worse than Fiats, and that's about as bad as you get.
Their motto was born from jets, because the original Saab company over in Europe was building jets, and then switched over to cars after the wars.
Yikes.
General Motors shut them down, I think, in 2011.
Yep.
Total shut them down.
Is that right?
Well, thanks.
All right, guys, you answered the question about the EV batteries.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad we could help.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you, John. And I know you always look forward to the mystery shopping report. And we went to Bradenton, Florida, if you didn't tune in earlier. And it should be a great mystery shopping report from Agent Lightning.
One place I recommend you've never gone to, is not that far away. And it seems like one family owns every car dealership in Sebring, Florida, which is not that far north from us. I would like to see a shopping report done at Sebring.
Yeah, what's that guy's name, John? My sister lives over there, and she's often talked about him, but I've forgotten his name.
Well, I don't remember his name neither, but it looks like he owns every dealership in town.
You're right.
It would be an interesting shopping report.
It's like going down to Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard, with all these dealerships. And he owns them all, unlike Palm Beach Lakes. But it's just a melting pot for the dealers. Thanks, John.
Thank you, guys, again. Thanks for being there.
You're welcome. 877-960-9960. Or you can text us at 772-497-6530. And don't forget youranonymousfeedback.com. Rick?
Alan J.
Alan J.
Alan J.
Alan J. That's it.
So I got a little anecdote for Alan J. He's again, he's kind of like got a monopoly in the Sebring area on car dealerships. Family operation. They've been there for a long time, but they're very, very small dealerships, and they had Alan J. ran for the Time Dealership Dealer of the Year award, which is a political thing. They were nominated as to be the Dealer of the Year, and the Florida Automobile Dealers Association won to nominate him. There was nothing spectacular, other than the fact that he owns a lot of very small dealerships over there. It's family; they're not bad dealers. I mean, they're a C on our curve when we grade dealers, and this is probably 20 years ago. And about the time I started dueling with Florida Automobile Dealers Association and becoming a consumer advocate, so they nominated him for the Time Dealer of the Year award, and they wanted to know if there's any other nominations. So I nominated myself as that, and of course
recall that.
It was kind of a joke because I knew that the FADA, the Dealers Association, would never elect me for anything. And since I turned consumer advocate, but Alan J. was voted the Time Dealer of the Year award from Florida. They weren't for the national, but they were for overall. So
It was an interesting story to share with the audience. We are going to talk to, guess who? The Roadrunner, Steve.
beep, beep.
From Boynton. Good morning, Roadrunner.
Good morning, everybody. How everybody doing? Good?
We're doing good.
Now that you called, we're great.
Okay.
We love hearing from you.
Yes. Anybody see that commercial where there's a vehicle on the left, an open parking spot, and a vehicle on the right, and it's a tight spot? The guy gets out of his vehicle, hits the button, and the vehicle parks itself in the tight spot.
Huh. I haven't seen that. What model? What kind of car was it?
I think it's a Hyundai. I'm not sure.
I've seen that.
Right? Okay, now my thing is, now the guy on the left, the passenger can't get in the vehicle, and the guy on the right of it, the driver can't get into the vehicle. Why would you park there? Now, being from New York, I would have left a loogie on his windshield or his door handle, or I would have wrote him a note. We all know what a loogie is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. To me, that's the stupidest thing I ever seen, especially if you were a handicapped person. How are you going to get in and out?
Yeah, I have that feature on my Tesla. As a matter of fact, I don't want to use it. It makes me nervous, but technically my Tesla will park itself.
Very nervous.
Yeah, and what happens if the vehicle just decides to take off? It goes right into the restaurant.
That's why I'm nervous, and I haven't tried it.
That's why you're nervous. Okay, I want to get on a serious point now.
Okay.
I was in Fort Myers Beach before the hurricane. I was there for 3 weeks. I left September 16th.
Oh, boy.
I just want to say to all the car show people out there, if you're having the car shows, get donations to help those people.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how big or little the donation is, just give a little. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, it's worse than anybody thought. I've been a resident of Florida since I was born. I'm born in Fort Lauderdale in 1940, and I've been through all the hurricanes. So, and Nancy and I, and before I even married Nancy, I never left. I never evacuated. Well, I did one time, 1947. But this is the worst hurricane in terms of human misery, property damage. It's just terrible. So thanks for bringing that up. These folks on the southwest coast of Florida are in terrible, terrible conditions.
Yes.
And,
my timeshare was in the parking lot where I stayed at the Stella Island Beach Club.
Wow. That is, and the barrier islands, devastated. That's where a lot of the deaths were. These little islands, Pine Island. I hadn't even heard of Pine Island, but it was just devastated. And so many. There's several. I just thought there was just 2 or 3. There were like half a dozen.
Sanibel Island, the only bridge to it was completely wiped away.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be
And I
months
used to
before
go
they get a
fishing
road in
there
there.
on that Sanibel Island Pier
Yeah.
with that. And the lighthouse stood up after all those years.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
That's when they really built stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody have a good and safe day.
Thank you, my friend.
soon.
Thank you, Steve. It's
Thank
always
you.
great to hear from
Bye-bye.
you. 877-960-9960. We're going to stick with the phones, but don't forget you can text. We've got YouTube. We're going to get to Rick shortly. And we are going to go to Mark in Palm Beach Gardens. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, everybody. I'm assuming everyone's doing well. I'm just calling with my usual reminder for the listeners. Hopefully everybody's heard about the program that you guys started, but, the shows only last 2 hours, and there's so many questions out there that, with all these cars that will be or have been totaled, a lot of them are going to hit the used car market. But Earl's Vigilantes is a program you guys started
Yes.
for the vigilantes to give information to your listeners that they're after the shows. It's a good resource. Nancy and I are both good proponents of the program. These flood cars, if you're considering buying a used car and you're wondering if it's a potential flood car, there's questions that you can ask us so we can answer. And also, sales, service, and body repair of cars. Earl's Vigilantes is a great program. All you have to do is look up Earl on Cars, and I believe that's where you'll find the category for vigilantes.
Well, thank you, Mark. I just put my hat on.
Contact information.
I just put my vigilante hat
there it
on.
is.
Thanks for reminding everybody.
Yeah, your call couldn't have come at a better time.
Yeah, where's your Earl's Vigilante shirt, Earl?
Well, we haven't got the shirts yet. I keep asking Stu. Stu stepped out, but I'll jump on him when he comes back. Where are the shirts? 'Cause
They're in the making.
we're supposed to have shirts. You're right about that.
Yeah, they're in the making. But Mark, again, back to you. We can't thank you enough for, your contribution to Earl's Vigilantes. You've been a great asset. And as I said, your call couldn't have come at a better time because there's so many people out there who need help. And they can go to Earl's Vigilantes, as you said. And it's a win-win situation. You don't have to know how to take an engine apart. And you can not only help others, but you can help people in your own neighborhood. And as I said, Mark, you've been a great asset, and we can't thank you enough for calling the show.
No worries. Well, I hope everyone has a safe and enjoyable remainder of the weekend.
Thank you
for
so much,
taking my
Mark.
call.
Thanks, Mark.
Same
Bye-bye.
to you.
Bye-bye.
We are out of calls. Rick, do you have...
I've got a couple of quick ones here. This one from Mark Ryan, and it fits in with what we were discussing a few minutes ago. Ford announced that the F-150 Lightning, the EV truck, would increase by $5,000 for the 2023 model due to ongoing supply chain constraints, rising material costs, and other market factors. Orders are extremely strong. He says, I'm guessing the other market factors is Ford's cash grab opportunity. Any thoughts on this?
Well, remember, before we talk about the high price, there is the just enacted into a law is the subsidy for the electric vehicles, and I haven't got all the details there, but it's substantial. And the Ford Lightning and the other new EVs, for most manufacturers, including Tesla, there'll be substantial rebate, cash rebate for electric vehicles, which will offset the increase in costs.
And this one from Charles Reeves. He says, good morning, all. I live in New York City, and as of late, mass transit has become a harrowing experience, to say the least. Do you think I should be looking at cars auctioned from Scofflaws and the Marshalls? I'm not familiar with those myself. He says, thank you.
I'm not sure either.
I got to do a little Googling. Is that an auction house? Scofflaws?
But mass transit, I mean, that's what you want to have when you got a problem with cars in a congested area like New York City or Chicago. So I don't know exactly.
Oh, that's a surprise.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, there is an online auction called Scofflaws, and Microsoft sued them a few years ago. But we have to look into it a little bit more to give you an intelligent answer to your intriguing question.
Yes, very intriguing.
I do have a text from Anne Marie. And she says, "Good morning. A friend just came back from a 16-day tour of Japan. She remarked about all the different models of Toyotas there that we don't have here in this country. And I went to Japan too. There's lots of models of all sorts of Japanese manufacturers that we don't have here. Lots of little small vans and like cute little cars that you don't see over here. She liked riding in the Toyota Crown taxis, but she thought that trying to wedge 3 full-size adults into the back of a Prius taxi was a bit much. It is. As they toured the country, my friend noticed that the dealerships of all brands they passed were smaller than American dealerships, but they had more inventory on display than the American dealerships have. Do you know if it is actually true that Japanese car dealers get more inventory than American car dealers? You know, when I was in Japan, I visited a car dealership, a Toyota dealership over there, and it was cute. It was a little tiny store. It looked like about the size of like a gas station, like a big gas station here. They didn't have a lot of inventory, but it was a small lot, so it was filled. And this is in the years before this crazy time. So I learned a lot about the individual dealership. But to answer Anne-Marie's question, we didn't really get into their distribution. I don't know if they have access to more cars. Makes sense that they would. Do you know if they have less of a problem getting chips and other parts because of their proximity to where the chips are made? I would imagine. I know a lot of our parts that we have that are slowed down that we can't get come from Southeast Asia. So less ships involved, the logistics possibly, but I really don't know.
But Toyota's worldwide. Most of Toyotas. I don't have the written proof of this, but I would think that most Toyotas are not built in Japan anymore.
Right.
They're built somewhere else. At one time, 30 years ago, that might have been the case. But right now, they're built in South America, they're built in China, they're built in the United States. Huge number. We actually, in the United States, export cars to Japan.
Yep.
We export Camrys and manufacturers. So it's a global economy and the whole thing. The Japanese car dealer is totally different, as Stu described. They're not the flashy big mega dealers. There's not the slam bam, $1,000, $1 million discounts. They're more like family little places, and they wouldn't have large inventories typically. Partly because they get all their cars probably next door from the manufacturer.
The factories down the block.
And it's just it's probably a very sane, friendly way to buy a car in Japan compared to the way it is in the USA.
Yeah, it was. They had sales meetings. We saw a sales meeting. It looked a lot like American car dealerships. Maybe American car dealerships from the 80s. Everybody wore suits and ties. And like dark suits and ties.
But you couldn't tell what they were saying.
No, well, we had translators, and our guide was there, and I think I'm pretty sure that the dealer spoke English. He spoke to our group. Anyway, it was a really neat experience to see a different culture doing something that really was invented here. I mean, we invented car dealerships in the United States, so that's their approximation. And they had all little signs for all the lease, lease payments and things like that, and it was all very colorful. Looked like anime.
I love the suit and ties.
Yeah, very formal.
We wear that. We did that in the United States for years.
Yeah.
We had to wear them too. They told us when we visited the car dealerships it would be proper. We ought to wear suits and ties. Yeah.
I wore a suit and tie for the probably first 25 years of my career.
Yeah. When I had to draw pictures of my dad for school, with crayons, I would draw a guy with a blue suit and a red tie. And
nice.
dark brown hair and a big dark brown mustache.
What about the cufflinks?
And gold cufflinks. All right, I have a text from Bob, and this is an update. We've heard from him last week. Do we have a phone call?
We do. Thank you, Stu. We're going to go back to the phones where John's been holding from West Palm Beach. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to say I was going to call last week, but it didn't fit with the subject that was being talked about. but it just came up again. And I'm really getting tired of this supply chain. I want to say excuses, but I'm sure it's not excuses. It's a real thing.
Yes.
But the reason why I'm bringing this up is if people are wondering why their car insurance has gone up, call your agent, call the company, and when you ask them why there was an increase, because they're going to tell you that it went up ours went up in several categories by $50 because of the supply chain and the dealers, the body shops, and those that are in the automotive industry keeping the cars running have lack of supplies, and the costs are going up because of the supply chain interruption. And so our insurances have gone. Well, our insurance went up in several categories, and the reason was because of the supply chain.
John, there's also the fact that your car now is so high tech. Used to be when you bumped a bumper, all you did was replace the bumper, or you might have to maybe even paint it, or you can't pound out a bumper. But now a bumper's got sensors in it. There's electronics on every inch of your car. And so when you normally just had a dented fender or a dented bumper, you now have computers that are being damaged. And
it goes from a $300 repair to a $3,000 repair.
Exactly, yeah. So today's cars, with their tremendous safety and ease of driving and handling and great fuel economy and et cetera, the downside is they are extremely expensive when they get damaged and to repair. So the collision repair now is many times what it would be 20 years ago.
No, that part I understand. I understand the parts go up.
Yeah.
But to say the reason why we're raising your rate is because of the supply chain.
That sounds
so
like
much the parts.
I hear your irritation because
Yeah.
I hear it everywhere. I mean, everything is affected, and you don't know how much of it is true because it does become a convenient excuse. And sometimes you just hear that one thing, supply chain.
John, how long have you been with your insurance company?
We've been with them for like 18 years.
Okay, well, who's your insurance company?
Progressive.
Okay, I've got a bet for you. If you will go out now and get bids from 4 or 5 insurance companies, you will beat the current premium you're paying to Progressive. All the insurance companies add a little bit more to your premium. Sometimes it's just a few dollars every year, whether they have to or not. That's part of the game plan. That's part of the way they make a huge amount of money. But if you've been with Progressive for 18 years and you haven't gone out for competitive pricing, you're paying too much money.
But what happens with the competitive pricing is, here's the trick that they use on you.
Yeah.
If you sign up, you're now a new customer, and they give you a 15% discount. The second year, it goes right back to more than what you're paying with your original company. We went through that.
Well, then play the game.
Tried that and had
play the game.
And it's just and like I said, that first year they gave you the big discount to draw you in. It's just like down at City Place where they bring in all the restaurants and that. They offer them a great lease for 2 years, and after the 2 years,
they go out of business.
They bump the rates way up. That's why the industry down there, all the businesses are 2 to 3 years, for the smaller companies.
There's a lot of truth to that, but my point is, so what? If you have to go out every year, every 2 years, it'll take you 10 minutes online or on the phone to get a competitive quote, and then you save yourself $15, $20 a month in premium. So it's worth it.
Just use a fake email address, because as soon as you get quotes, your email box is going to blow up.
And that's the... And when you do sign up for those, cheaper insurance, and it starts looking for you, I think there's websites that you tell them you're looking for car insurance, and then they send you a whole bunch of different companies that are going to try and outbid and outbeat each other. It's just not worth. Sometimes it's not
a
worth
circus.
it for me.
I hear you, John.
Yeah.
Great point, John.
But the whole point was, if people are scratching their head why their insurance went up, that's one of the excuses that you're going to get the supply chain is interrupting everything, and they're trying to cover their costs on it.
Well, there's truth in that, but there's also the I'm an insurance company and I know how to make money. That's where Warren Buffett made most of his money, was in insurance. And anyone that has an insurance business, I have an insurance business. Stu has an insurance business, and insurance has got a huge number of tax deferrals and tax breaks. Insurance is a great way to make a lot of money. So Progressive, Allstate, State Farm, all of them, Geico, they are making a lot of money. And you're the ones that's paying the profit. I pay it, you pay it. Everybody who pays insurance is making the insurance companies extremely rich. John, thank you very much for the call. Let's move along.
Give us a call again, John. It was great hearing from you. We are going to get to Stu because he no doubt has a lot.
I got a good text over here. This is from Bob, but we heard from Bob last week. He lives in Naples, and he lost 2 of his cars were washed away during the storm. And he called to let us know that he used our advice on taking a chance and buying online, and he did, and he bought 2 used cars from our dealership and ordered a new car. So here's his update. Good morning, Bob from Naples with a hurricane damage update. My 2010 and 2016 Corollas were inspected and totaled by the insurance company. Water came above the wheels. They were towed away by Copart and sent to auction. Beware out there of those used flood cars.
Yeah, they're not going to scrap those cars, folks. They're coming back on the market, and you don't want to buy one of those.
Yep. He says, this is wild. My certified used 2016 that I purchased for $14,000 in 2018 got a $19,000 offer from the adjuster. $5,000 more than he paid for it 4 years ago. Based on the comps, though, I think I can get that to $20,000. 4 years used, and the value went up $5,000. This will be a nice down payment on one of the 22s that I bought from you guys.
Better than the stock market.
It is this month. Still waiting for numbers for the 2010 Corolla with 25,000 miles. Also, Stephen, that's one of our sales associates. Stephen helped me grab a second 2022 2-month-old Corolla rather than the first 2020 I first picked out. Great customer service. Stay well, all. Bob from Naples. And Bob, I'm glad you're safe, and that's just a great thing to listen to. So many lessons here. Learn the lesson from Bob's old cars, which are now on the market, and also remember that your used car is worth a lot, especially over there on the West Coast when there's a local shortage of used cars.
It's a perfect storm. We had high demand, low supply. Now we have off-the-chart demand because of the flood. So a huge percentage of the population on the west coast of Florida, southwest coast of Florida, is having to buy a car. The only time this show recommends you buy a car is when you have to. Well, you've got thousands of people over there rushing out to buy a car. Now, the cars that are being taken off the market are being sold, I would hate to think, maybe to some of the same people that are rushing out to buy the car. Yeah. So you have a huge number of cars that you should not touch with a 10-foot pole, but you can't tell because they look really good. I mean, it is a science, art, or whatever you want to call it. People that spend their professional careers taking cars that are flood cars and turning them into seemingly buyable products. Yeah. So it's a terrible situation. Be careful if you can hear us on the West Coast. I don't know, is all the power restored to the wireless?
The last I saw, it was below 1 million were out. It was like a few 100,000, I think, still are without power.
Yeah. And so many unscrupulous people over there in Southwest Florida. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine? Does anybody know about all the looting that is going on? It's just an unfortunate situation, and they're there and they don't care. They take advantage. Under any circumstances. Back to Stu.
We have a text from another Bob. This is from a listener in Stewart, Florida. Bob says, good morning. What are the tire rotation pros and cons of front to back and back to front versus crisscross rotation?
Crisscrossing your tires can create what's called a radial tire pull. Tires, if you were to look straight down on them, the inside edge versus the outside edge is not always a perfect smooth surface, and the tire may actually have a little bit of cone shape. You won't be able to see it, but if you put that tire on the opposite side of the car, it may cause the car to drift one way or the other. So if your car is driving straight down the road, we always recommend that your tires should be rotated by fronts going to the back, backs going straight to the front. Crisscrossing them only should be done if you're having an issue with a pull or a tire wear issue. Sometimes that crisscross can help correct that.
Okay. So it's not really a rotation, it's more like a swap.
Yes.
Oh, okay. We'll do a tire swap. Well, never mind. We'll call it a rotation.
Well, and the reason you're putting them, moving them from front to back and back to front is because on the front wheel drive cars, 70% of the weight is all on the front tires.
Yeah.
And they also do 70% of your braking. So that makes them wear a little faster. And by rotating them, it keeps the wear patterns even on all four tires and helps your tires last longer. So you get the best use out of them.
Thanks, Rick. All right. Well, I'm all caught up with text, so I'm going to go over here to anonymous feedback unless it logged me out. It did, but it only takes a second to log back in. I saw one that came in. You said it's only been a couple of days since we got one, but here we go. Here's the question. If I take over the payments on the remaining months of someone's existing lease, will I be able to purchase the car at the end of the lease for the buyout price that was originally on the lease contract 3 years ago? The answer to that is no, unless there's some strange exceptions I don't know about. The person on the lease contract is the person who can buy the lease out. Now you can make an arrangement with that person to to help you go through that process, but you don't go on the lease contract when you take over the payments.
Well, I'm not sure that, and I don't. This would be like a very unusual situation.
If they formally and got on the contract, in that case they would. But
if I leased a car, and then I wanted to transfer the lease to you. I've never done this or heard about it being done. I don't see why I couldn't call the leasing company and say, I want to assign my lease to Stu, and they would investigate you and approve you. It would be a lot of paperwork.
If they would allow it, 'cause it would make it's common. I mean, it makes sense that there would be a mechanism to do that. Obviously, they get their lawyers and all that. I don't know if they do it though.
Well, I think
as a matter of practice,
a lease contract is a contract.
Yeah.
All contracts can be assigned legally, and it's just a question whether the owner of the contract wants to do it.
Yeah.
And that would depend on the leasing company, and but it would be a stretch, to say the least.
Yeah. So, but right now, barring that unusual situation, you just work it out with the person that you're taking over the payments for, if they want to do that.
Have another contract.
Yep. Let's see. We have another one here. It says, why do they require car buyers at new car dealerships to purchase overpriced floor mats? Well, a lot of dealerships will load up vehicles with equipment that are overpriced and unwanted. You can always request not to get any options, or you won't buy the car. That might be a tough situation in today's market because a lot of dealers are just taking advantage of the short supply of new cars to load them up with accessories. But you can always put your foot down and find a dealer that won't do that because they're not required by the manufacturer.
Well, there are certain accessories that have high markups, and in the case of Toyota, we're very familiar with because we're a Toyota dealer. There's something called Toyo Guard. That's an accessory called put on by the distributor, and it's extremely profitable. And so the dealers all put it on. They pre-order it. They put it on the car you want to buy, even though you don't want it or never heard about it. And you mentioned floor mats. Floor mats have a large markup, and so dealers like to. There's different ways dealers try to get you. The worst one is dealer installed accessories. They'll take something like glass etch or nitrogen in tires that costs them practically nothing, and they'll mark it up 1,000% or 2,000%, and it's a dealer installed accessory. The value is practically zero, and they try to do that to you. The other way is by factory.
Pinstripes.
Yeah, pinstripes. The other way are factory options, and even the factory has certain options that are higher margin, and they will take those. Floor mats seems to be a favorite, and they like to take these very expensive floor mats and put them in the car, And so when you buy the car, you have to buy the floor mat at the high margin.
Well, back in the old days, what dealers would do with the installed floor mats, they would get the aftermarket cheap ones and put in there. Now they can't do that. Well, at least I think all manufacturers are doing this because you have now the Toyota floor mats have these special locks that go in to keep them in place.
Yeah.
They've evolved beyond the hook, so they go in there. And I believe you could probably buy an aftermarket version, but they have to have this special lock that works in to the floor of the car. Here's some more anonymous feedback. Headlines on Sunday, October 2nd, 2022, was that Tesla had missed their delivery estimates. Who creates the estimates, and are the estimates ever intentionally set high in an effort to increase the short-term stock price for a quick profit on the sale of the stock?
I would say yes to everybody except Tesla. Elon Musk is just one of these people that doesn't care what he says, and he doesn't care about money. So he probably was integral in that estimate, and they missed it. It's a crazy world out there. Manufacturing, COVID, the war in Ukraine, supply chain.
Yeah.
So today, for any CEO or any company to forecast accurately is more difficult than it's ever been.
Right. I mean, we on a smaller scale, we forecast at our dealership, and it's a educated guessing game, and sometimes we're close, and sometimes we're way off, and so that's a normal thing. But you have to forecast because you have to you plan for all your business operations along the way. So sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. Okay, I'm all caught up.
Okay,
Rick?
Actually, I got one quick note from Negan One. He says he works for Frito-Lay out in Arizona, and he says Tesla's actually in conjunction with Frito-Lay out there as well. Frito-Lay being owned by PepsiCo, they're going to be arranging to have electric vehicles there to do delivery of the Frito-Lay chips, and then they have a large solar field, solar panels in the field right next to the Frito-Lay warehouse, so they can recharge the trucks by solar power during the day and run the trucks at night doing their deliveries.
Wow.
That's great.
Convenient. Great idea.
And you'll never hear them coming.
No, not a bit.
Until they open a bag of chips.
Frito, my favorite.
There was an article in the Automotive News which surprised me and disappointed me a little bit, that the American Automobile Association has been testing the safety items on cars, and one of them was the automatic braking, which I kind of like. I know Stu does too. Has saved my garage wall a couple times, and it automatically applies the brakes even though you don't see what the obstacle is. It stops the car, and apparently the testing on a lot of cars, one of them was a Toyota, I believe it was a RAV, the AAA tried, and the success rate was only in the 30%. And the damages when they tested it in real traffic situations, the automatic braking wasn't that good. So I haven't had a chance to look into that carefully.
That's better than hitting the wall 100% of the time.
That's true, yeah.
That's
And
for
my
sure.
my garage wall is there because of it, because it does work sometimes, and
There you go.
but it is kind of disturbing to me because I brag on and on about the backup cameras and the passing warnings and the braking and a lot of things like that.
The braking's a fail-safe. You got to pay attention to the beeps first.
Yeah. And what I haven't thought of, that the NHTSA doesn't test those. They test just a car in a crash. The NHTSA should be testing the standard safety features.
There's a lot of manufacturers are really touting these things as like lifesavers, and it should be tested. Absolutely.
So that makes you stop and think, and that, of course, how long is it going to take the NHTSA or any governmental agency to wake up and know what's going on?
We'll be autonomous.
That's
before
right,
that, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Won't hold my breath.
So, we have a late, last-minute anonymous feedback that just came in. It's funny. Nitrogen tires. Went to a dealer that wanted to sell nitrogen tires. I asked to see the nitrogen machine, and oops, there was none to be found. The nitrogen machine is your atmosphere around you.
Yeah, I know I say this to the people, the regular listeners. 78% of the air that you breathe, the same air that you put in a tire, is nitrogen. So When they do put nitrogen in the tires, they're not putting 100% nitrogen in there. That's impossible because there's already air in the tire anyway. And I'm not sure the exact percentage nitrogen you get in a tire when you use quote unquote pure nitrogen. But to pay for something that's already in your tire, and which Consumer Reports, the Bible, at least for us, that says nitrogen in your tires is worthless. I mean, they tested every tire for a year and found there was no fuel economy saving, there was no anything that was beneficial from that. Rick?
I'll never forget when a guy that owned I believe it was like a cycle shop, scooters, said before a group of people that nitrogen helps prevent your tires from wearing on the inside. And I was scratching my head thinking, what wears the inside of a tire?
I think I had heard that they said because oxygen is a corrosive element, and it is. It's
Yes.
very reactive and
Yep.
binds to things. And so that they're saying that the oxygen, if you have too much oxygen on the inside of your tire, it's going to corrode and oxidize the inside of
Well,
the tire.
if you get a blowout from the inside of your tire corroding, you must put one hell of a lot of miles on that car. I mean, it would take 20 years,
Right.
and you're not supposed to buy a tire that's over 6 years old. But
Just don't fill your tire with
Yeah,
pure
how much
oxygen.
Right,
Oxygen.
you're not supposed to pump
Yeah.
tire with pure oxygen either.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Stu, are we going to have time to read the
Oh, I'm
email
sorry.
from,
This is out of sight, out of mind. We
Earl?
have, so before we get to the mystery shopping report, we have a message that I'm going to read on the air that Earl and Nancy got. It says, "Hello, Mr. Stewart. It's James Fronte from the YAA platform up here in St. Johns County. Just wanted to say thank you for the $50 check that Mrs. Stewart sent to my wife, Kathy, on September 17th. My wife's birthday was the day before. Thank you for your generosity. Also, I'm watching your show from morning now, and when I looked at a Honda Pilot in August of 2021 at Honda The Avenues in Jacksonville, Lou Saab is the owner, the sales manager tried to get me to sign a similar form about making a deal today and taking delivery on the spot if we agreed on the deal. The same form also had a line for my signature that said all decision makers were present and that the vehicle for my desired needs and the salesperson did his job properly and to my satisfaction. I refused to sign the form, and the salesperson said it would be hard to get pricing out of his manager. I thanked the young man for the Costco water bottle and walked out. The sales manager came running and got me in the parking lot while I was getting into my car. I declined to speak with him and left. For the next week, I kept getting calls on my cell phone from my salesman and the manager. I responded to the young salesman and said thanks but no thanks, as I won't be emotionally manipulated. The dock fee at the time was $899 plus a $1,900 accessory package. Now it's $999 on the dock fee plus a $2,900 mandatory accessory package. I am so happy that we got my wife the 22 Hyundai Palisade calligraphy back in early February. Just thought I'd share this with you as your mystery shopping report yesterday made me think of my local Honda dealership. Thank you again for the $50 check to my wife. So, yeah, this is what's going on. That's the reality out there.
Thanks, Stu.
St. Johns County. Where's it? That's up near Jacksonville, I think.
I'm not sure.
I think it is.
Northern Florida. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it is. We're going to get to our mystery shopping report, but let me remind you that you too can vote, and your vote is very important. As I say every week, and you guys out there that are listening, that are YouTubing us, that are Facebooking, everything, calling in the show, you make the show. You're an important part of it. So vote on the mystery shopping report at 772-497-6530. We went out to Bradenton, Florida, or at least our agent Lightning did, and she did another fabulous job, as Stu did. And we went to Firkins, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep in Bradenton, Florida. Now back to the recovering car dealer.
Yeah, Firkins. That's
Firkins.
Unusual name, Firkins. On the road again this week, our mystery shop took us to the west coast of Florida. Firkins, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep in Bradenton, Florida, a little town, small town. You know, it's unusual in this part of Florida to have this type of town. I've known people in that town, and it's kind of like Mayberry. It's just near Tampa and some rather big areas. But it's located just south of Tampa on the Gulf of Mexico.
And the Manatee River.
Yeah, Manatee River. This area was battered last week by Hurricane Ian, as you well know. And it'll be a long time before things return to normal. That's an understatement. A long, long time. The worst of the hurricane was experienced further south in Fort Myers Beach area, but the damage was widespread. Last week we talked about the thousands of cars and trucks that were inundated by water, ocean water. Many swept away. We think about floods and we think about water. Well, ain't nothing worse than ocean water. Salt water, a flood car is bad enough, but when you have salt water flood, it's even worse. A great many of these vehicles will be totaled by insurance companies, most of them, and will need to be replaced. A lot of these vehicles will wind up in the used car market, some with branded titles and some without. As I said before on this show, flood cars are an industry because there's always a flood somewhere, and there are people that specialize, wholesalers and retailers, in buying and selling flood cars. These cars are not scrapped like they should be. There should be a federal and state law that's saying you can't take a total car and resell it, but there's not. So these cars are sold to you and your neighbors, and you don't even know about it in many cases. Be very, very careful when you buy a used car. Thousands of people on the West Coast and Central Florida are currently in desperate need of replacement vehicles. That just adds to this terrible situation. A desperation to buy and total cars available that look really nice, that seem like bargains on the market. That's the worst case scenario you can think of. This sudden demand is hitting new and used vehicles at a very unstable time in the car industry. Here we are in a terrible situation, aggravated by an even more terrible situation. The lopsided supply and demand environment had brought out the greed in most car dealers in the last 2 years, but Hurricane Ian poured gasoline on the fire, or as I should say, Hurricane Ian poured blood in the water. It's never been a worse time to buy a car than the last 2 years. For the people on the West Coast, like Bradenton, Florida, it just got worse. Agent Lightning traveled to the disaster zone in hope of identifying a trustworthy dealer and warning the folks of Bradenton of the bad ones. This report is the first of a two-part series, and we'll do the next one next week. And here's the actual report, speaking as if I were Agent Lightning. I arrived in the afternoon. The dealership was undergoing some construction, but it looked like it had been well cleaned up after the storm. I was immediately greeted by a salesman named Brad. As soon as I walked in the showroom, Brad thought I was a service customer since I'd come in through the service entrance. I told him I was visiting my son on the West Coast while I was here, and I planned to buy a new Jeep Wrangler. I told him I had come over from the West Palm Beach area, and I really disliked the Chrysler Jeep dealer there near me. And Brad says, "Are you referring to a Rego?" So it's funny how car dealers hear about other car dealers, and I said, "No, it was Napleton." And then Brad laughed again. He said he knew of them too. So the two of the most notorious is not too strong a word for those two dealerships, Arrigo and Napleton. I'll have to say, in fairness to Arrigo, Napleton is more notorious. And also in fairness to Arrigo, it's not really Arrigo. Arrigo sold out how many years ago?
A couple of years ago,
and
2019.
And Morgan is now the
Morgan Group.
The Morgan Group is the owner. Brad said he had a new firecracker red Jeep Wrangler Sahara. Firecracker red, I like that. Jeep Wrangler Sahara in stock and available. He said it was a plug-in electric and would go 24 miles in all-electric mode before the hybrid system kicked in.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a few. Toyota's got one of those, and there's
a couple of
other. He took me outside to see it. It was parked on the pad near the front door. It was bright red, had an MSRP of $61,290, and there was no addendum. Now that's the shocker. Don't hear that very often these days. We took it out for a test drive. It drove well and was very quick, but it wasn't charged enough for me to try out the all-EV mode. Brad went over everything, and I was impressed with the vehicle's technology. We went back in the dealership. Brad led me to a seat and said he would go get the pricing for me. He said I was lucky to have found the Jeep. The plug-ins are very rare. I sighed, knowing he was setting me up for the big one, the big hit. He wanted to know if I wanted to pay cash or finance and how much money I had to put down. That's all standard operating procedure in car dealerships. my anxiety began to rise. Brad left, and he said he'd be right back. Returned in 3 minutes. Very quick. With a worksheet. The top line labeled market value was MSRP $61,290. The line labeled selling price was the same, $61,290. Now, here we go. There was an $887 doc fee. That's a hidden fee. $199.95 electronic filing fee. That's a hidden fee. And a $60 third-party tag fee. Obviously, another hidden fee. I don't call them dealer fees anymore because dealer fees has become a generic term, and there are actually dealers out there that are advertising no dealer fee, but they don't say anything about electronic filing fee or third-party tag fees or doc fees, which are just made-up names for hidden fees, and usually, for years, they call them dealer fees. Everything else added looked legit, and you add those together was like $1,147. Not a huge amount of money over sticker in today's market. And Brad told me that the owner never marks up his cars, and never did during the pandemic or during the inventory shortages. And this is quite amazing.
Really good, actually.
And the Jeep Wrangler is about as hot a vehicle as there is on the market today.
And a plug-in hybrid Jeep Wrangler.
And plug-in hybrid really makes it rare. So I was shocked. Stu was shocked. Nancy was shocked when we read this.
Right.
And so I think it's a small town thing.
I don't even understand the world anymore, the universe, because they have excessive dealer fees, and any other time in history that we would have probably dinged them for that. But I mean, the fact that you're getting like with Toyota, we have, or you mentioned, we have plug-in hybrids. They call them Primes, Prius Prime, RAV4 Prime.
Yeah.
Those take well over a year just to even get.
Yeah, they were hard. They were low supply before.
Right.
The COVID.
And now Toyota dealers, those are getting a big premium over MSRP. So to see a Jeep dealer to control himself and only throws junk fees on there, I'm impressed.
Bradenton, Florida, a little sleepy town near Tampa, right in the heart of the hurricane area. Not putting an addendum on a car, not charging over MSRP except for about $1,100 in hidden fees, and on one of the hardest vehicles to buy, a very popular Jeep Wrangler, even more hard to buy because it's a electric combo hybrid. So there you have it. We grade on the curve, and we'd like to hear your votes.
I think our listeners are shocked too because there's no grades coming in. Just kidding. We had Bob gives an A for Firkins, and I'm inclined to go. I'm going to go. I can't give him an A. I'm going to give him a B plus though, a B plus because they still have the junk fees.
Yeah,
you got to reserve the A for the ones that don't do that.
Firkins, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, in Bradenton, Florida. Rick, what do you say?
Like Stu, waiting for the grades to come in. It seemed like we kind of like it got cut a little short there.
Well, we shocked everybody.
We shocked. Well, Mark has a B plus for Firkins, and Jonathan Wellington says, "I'm sorry for what Florida's West Coast went through, but due to too many hidden fees, I must give this dealership a B, a decent grade because of no hard sell."
Well, let's do this. Even before the grades are in, this will kind of telegraph my score. But I think you're going to see some higher scores here. Firkins, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep. If you're on the west coast of Florida and you want to buy a vehicle replacement, you have to do it in a hurry. According to this mystery shopping report, this dealership does not add addendum labels. They do have about $1,100 in hidden fees, which we don't like, but everybody does that. And all the dealers in Florida are doing that, or most all. And if you want to buy a Chrysler, Dodge, or Jeep, Jeep, one of the hottest cars on the market today, and you're on the west coast of Florida, go to Firkins, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, in Bradenton, Florida. So if we have any more grades in, we'll get back to the grades.
We have all our grades in, so
okay.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, no, Martha on Facebook gives him a B.
I've got some coming in here. Negan 1, I give it a B plus. Kirk in West Bygod, Virginia. Firkins Stellantis, MSRP plus junk fees, much better than more, but not perfect, equals a B. And let's see, here we go. Tim Gilliland, still not a fan of the hidden fees, but a B minus. Mark Ryan with a B+, Brian Sedlatko with a B, Rocky Blockatiel with a B+, Scott Hunter with a B, and
Got a lot of grades over there.
I'm going to agree with him. I see a B to a B+, really, because you know, the hidden fees don't like them, but you know you're going to be getting them.
Yeah.
And Doug gives him an A-, which is the same thing as a B+.
Yeah.
Almost.
Who was it?
Doug.
Oh, Doug gave. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and vote. And this morning, whenever I read the mystery shopping report, I was somewhat impressed. But I definitely am not complacent, and therefore, you know, giving them a high grade, I would not. But I'm going to give them a B, and it's all because of junk fees.
Ella the cat gives him a B-ow.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a A-. I feel a little guilty about that because of the $1,100 in fees, but in view of the special circumstances of Hurricane Ian, flood cars galore, I'm almost emotional about how well they treated Agent Lightning. And I also go back to the small town syndrome. You know, I think small town dealers know that what they do to their customers today will be remembered tomorrow. And I think that Firkins is just a smart guy. He's in a small town, and if he takes advantage of a customer in a small town, the whole town knows about it. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of big dealers around there. There's a lot of competition. If you're a small town dealer, you pretty much have to take good care of your customers, or else you won't have very many customers. They won't repeat. Repeat business is what keeps car dealers around for a long time. And we're speculating that after this whole COVID thing subsides, if it ever does, the supply chain and the rest of it, and now the effects of the hurricane, there are going to be a lot of dealers that are going to lose a lot of customers because they will remember what they did to them when they exploited them and charged them thousands and thousands of dollars over sticker price. People have long memories, and Firkins knows that. So buy your Chrysler Dodge Jeep at Firkins in Bradenton, Florida, just a little bit south of Tampa.
Yeah, great advice. This is rhetoric, but what would happen to Napleton and Arrigo in Bradenton?
Well, could you imagine, say, the general manager goes to get lunch, and the place that he's having lunch, he has sold cars to half the people that are in there as customers and employees. Mm-hmm. You know, if you take care of them, you treat them right, they're all going to welcome you open arms.
Yeah. You know, that's a similar
phenomenon
to Earl.
Messed them up. Ooh.
He's very well known in the area, and so maybe he would be evil if he was a little bit more anonymous. Everybody sees him in a restaurant. Go, hey, Earl.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We had another great show, and we hope you think so, and that you will have a wonderful weekend, and tune in next week, same time, 8 a.m.